And I'm back with another crazy video. So today, what I have for you is this: animal instincts. Have you ever noticed how animals, they naturally know, like how cats can climb trees, and they know how to hunt and stalk, and no one ever teaches them. Like, the mama cat or the daddy cat doesn't ever teach the animals. They just instinctively have this wired in their DNA. So what got me thinking about this, because you're like, this is a very random video, was I was having my breakfast, and the people that I live with, they have two cats, and the cats' names are Gizmo, whose actual name used to be Flashjack. I don't know who changes the cat's name, but in this particular case, they changed its name. So Gizmo is an older cat. I don't know his actual age. And then you have Diamond, who is much younger, maybe 2 years, something like that. And she's much more playful, and she's always on the prowl and antagonizing poor Gizmo. He's like, he just wants to chill, look out the window, and watch the birds, and the cat will sneak up and and pounce, and then he's like, and then they go at it and they start fighting. And I guess they're just playing, but he doesn't ever seem to be the one that's reciprocating. He doesn't seem to be trying to go after her. It's always her going after him. Well, anyways, I got to watching Diamond as she was getting ready to pounce, and the tail is twitching in the back. For those of you who have cats, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen cat behavior, and I'm not a big cat guy, but because I live with them, I watch these things and I observe. So Diamond's getting ready to pounce, and then she darts off at it. And I'm thinking to myself, how did that cat learn that? How did that cat know that behavior? And obviously, the answer is they instinctively know it. It's animal instinct. They're just born with it. They don't have to be taught. So I thought to myself, yeah, and probably the rest of the animal kingdom, lions and sharks and all the other animal kingdom creatures out there, all know how to conduct business and do what they do. They don't have to go to animal learning school. They don't have to be instructed on proper animal behavior like we are, and be conditioned. I think that's a good thing in a lot of ways, because some people act like animals, and they end up in jail, and they need to be conditioned. So I'm not saying there isn't a reason for some classical conditioning, So anyways, you get to what I'm trying to say. So I was watching those cats do that, and I just kept thinking to myself, yeah, we must have like animal instincts too. I mean, if we're the higher evolved species, we must have at some point, and say, well, yeah, we, back in the caveman days, we evolved from. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I guess if there ever was a caveman, I mean, I'm willing to believe that there was. I'm just saying, Neanderthal. I mean, it's like, okay, I've read about it. I mean, I never met one, so it's, I'll take it on faith that the story's true. Though there are some people of a religious nature that probably would dispute that, say, oh no, God didn't create the caveman. There was no, even though that the archaeological records and stuff, and that, they doctored that up. And I don't want to go down that road of conspiracy theories from religion and all that stuff. But this is kind of the vein that it's in, because I'm getting to think to myself. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. These animals, and we have to be instructed on proper behavior, but animals don't. So maybe it's likely that, we could, if we, didn't have to follow what's in a rule book, say the Bible or whatever, on proper etiquette and and I think some of those things are good. I think it's good to give us some boundaries, because, we are smarter, or supposed to be smarter than the animals. But it's just interesting to me that, how come it is the animals know instinctively? We must have certain things that we instinctively know too as well. And so maybe I'm mixing the two, behavior versus classical conditioning. I don't know. But I was just thinking about that to myself, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, how come it is that, could we have just continued on, living without there being some alleged supreme being, instructing us on how to behave and how to conduct ourselves? I mean, if the animals can do it, and they know like kind of animal instinct and protocol and how to behave and how not to behave and what not to do, they have a protocol that the animals, dogs will sniff butts and like, oh yeah, it smells good, yeah, you're a friend, or no, or it's just interesting that the way the animal behaviors versus people's behavior, and maybe there's some similarities. I mean, between us and some of the animals, and so we have some similar behaviors that we maybe go about in different ways. So it just got me thinking about these really lofty kind of things. I mean, I'm like waking up in the morning, I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, that's so amazing. And I do. The birds know how to fly. They don't go to birdie flying school. They know these things instinctively. So if we, as the higher, more evolved species, we must have at one point known instinctively certain things. Fire bad. You know what I mean? It's like, I know it sounds funny, but I get to thinking about these things. So Anyways, what else do I have on this topic? What else can I discuss about this? Oh, so the universe. Somehow this ties in because my mind went this way, but I was thinking to myself, when you look at the universe and how majestic it is, if you say there isn't a divine creator, because that's where it all kind of boiled down to, was there some authority, divine creator that set all this up for us, and that's the explanation. But it's like, I was looking at the animals, like, it doesn't appear that anyone's instructing them on a regular basis. Okay, Birdie, now fly west. Now go, go west, young man. It's like, there's none of that. It's like they just happen on their own. There's no supreme being telling them how to evolve or how to use their animal instincts. This stuff all comes naturally. So I'm thinking, why do we need that? So then I got to thinking, okay, the universe is such a majestic place. Is it any less majestic? Is it any less amazing if we say a God or a divine creator didn't create it? I think it's still just as freaking awesome as if you say that God did create it. So I'm like, what difference does it make how it came to be, whether, God created the universe and intelligent design or whatever? It's still like the Earth. I mean, the planet Earth is a freaking amazing planet. When you see the videos from outer space and you look at it and you're just like, wow, like, it's cool stuff. And, that's just, I don't know. It just seems to me that we don't need, we must have at some point decided that we need a God. We need to invent a God. We need to create a God. We need to create something to give us some kind of reference point to say that, yes, this is how it all came to be. Yes, this is how Big Bang. No, that's not it. No, God created the universe, and God, we had to give some deity or some being, some supernatural being, the power and say that, yes, that's how it came to be. That's how all this stuff came, because it was much, I'm sure, as scientists were observing, early explorers and stuff, they were exploring the world and around them and observing these things that happened, like the animals behaving in natural ways, and say, how did they come to be? God created all the animals, and we had to have some reference point. We had to have some point, some way to explain our existence, explain our, the world around us and how it came to be. And for some reason, apparently it couldn't be just that we just evolved. It couldn't just be that we were always this way and we instinctively knew that. It was in our DNA to learn how to fly and to do all the things that we learned how to do. I mean, so why couldn't it be that? But, for many, many, many people, for many thousands of years, that's not been acceptable, It wasn't as much of the advancements that the Egyptians had. It wasn't acceptable for them. They had to try to explain their world around them through gods, myths and legends, invent these things. And it's very common. So why within the Christian religion would it be any different than any other religion? Why in this one instance, I think is what Dr. Robert Price says, why in this one instance should we believe that, the stories that are told that are any less than myths or legends or fables? I mean, why? What is it? Because the stories are so sensational. That's why. No, it doesn't. It's like two people telling stories that neither one of them are true, but because one's a better story, one's more sensational, one's more like, wow, there's a lot of stuff. God, miracles, Jesus did this, Jesus did. Doesn't mean that it's true. And you say, because it lasted all these centuries, that's why it means it's true. No. The Quran and Islam has lasted for thousands of years. The monotheistic religion, Judaism has lasted for thousands of years. Not too many Christians or Muslims are willing to say, yeah, Judaism, the Jews, they're right. Yeah, the Messiah still hasn't come. It's like, see it for what it is. That's all I'm asking people to do. And they don't want to give up the ghost, pun intended. They don't want to let it go. They want to believe what they want to believe, and they're free to believe it. But it's just like, you gotta, I don't know. I can't, like I said, I can't do the gymnastics that are required, all these leaps of faith that are required. I don't see why we can't see the world as that we just, we've evolved, and that's what he said. So you believe in evolution, is that? Yeah, maybe a portion of it. And eventually that, like I've said before, eventually that runs short too. Eventually we run out of ways of explaining the world through science, and then we're left, another leap of faith, just like Christianity wants me to do. What do you do? What are you supposed to do then? I don't know. To each his own, I guess, right? We'll all just decide, hey, you believe what you want to believe, I'll believe what I believe. And some people might say, well, I don't even know what you believe anymore, Dan. I'm trying to figure it all out. It's hard when you take a belief system and you rip it away from somebody and it erodes and you see that the pillars aren't as strong as you thought they once were. It's hard. It's hard to, have a house or stand when you don't have those foundations anymore. And so what's the answer? To go back to believing the way you did before just so you can have a rock solid house with a solid foundation? I don't think so. The answer is to seek the truth, and that's what I try to do. So, anyways, I don't know that. I don't know. We're supposed to be more evolved in the animal kingdom and the animal species out there. I'm not really sure how, some people might say, "Oh, Dad, I'm not sure how you make this leap between talking about animalistic." I'm just saying that, animals know how to do what they need to do, and they don't require a God, a divine creator. They don't have a rule book to follow. They don't have any of that stuff. They just know what to do. They just do it. And we don't teach them. They don't seem to, maybe in a small way they teach one another by their interactions, and they kind of learn what's protocol. Like, if you get too close to a certain dog's dish bowl, the dog will growl at the other dog. You'll say, like, back off, man. And we're kind of like that too in some territorial things, like, hey, don't come on my property. It's like, we kind of have that. We want to protect our domain, and I get that. So probably that's a natural instinct that we all have, to want to protect our families and protect our interests. We don't have to be instructed by a rule book, the Bible, to tell us how to live. Say, oh, you're just trying to remove God from any way you can. Like, no, I'm just asking the questions. I'm asking the questions because the things occur to me, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is kind of the way it is, but is this the way it really is? This is what people tell me how it is, but does this really match up with this over here? And so I see that disparity between animals just knowing how to do what they need to do and us. And we're supposed to be smarter than the animals, so what gives? How come it is they know without any instruction what to do, but yet we require all this help over here? So I think we invented that. We invented it to help us cope, to give us some explanations for the unexplainable, for the mysteries of life. We needed to have a reference point. Say, oh, I can't explain it all, but God knows the answer. Some unknown deity is we hang it on that hook and say, oh, he'll explain it to us someday. I'm like, come on, man. We're not smart enough and intelligent enough to figure it out. And I know there's a whole pseudo-intellectual thing out there that, you guys claim to be so smart, and God's smarter than you, and one day he's going to show you. And it's like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's like, you don't know that. That's just what you believe in your heart. That's just your faith, and that's fine. But you don't really know. I don't know any more than you know. So stop professing like you know more than I know. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's my little video for you today. It's something I was thinking about. And I just think, I think it's amazing that, that the animals can do what they do. And, the domesticated animals, you say, well, it's in their bloodline, Dan. It's in their genes, because they've been domesticated. That's why, cats and dogs and stuff like that. But no, even other animals that are in the wild know how to survive and don't require a divine God to have governance over their life and help them live. They know how to fend for themselves. You say, oh, but God looks out, it says even in the Bible, he looks out for even the smallest of the creatures. And I'm like, so what is he just sitting there saying, okay, birds over in the northeast, birds in the southeast, birds in the west, birds in the east, it's like, it's not sitting there doing. I don't know that he's not doing that, but it doesn't appear to me from what you can observe. You say, well, what is he sending out, some kind of homing beacon? No, they're free will, like we all have, to just kind of navigate and make stupid mistakes, like fly into your windshield and become dead, or be a deer and scoot across the road and get hit by a car. What did God tell them to cross the road so they could commit suicide? No, they instinctively booked it across the road, and bam. Same thing with the squirrels. Bad timing. There's nobody sitting there, some wizard controlling us. That's just what we invent to give us some sort of solace and peace of mind that there is someone in control in this chaotic world that's just spinning around. And it's just comfort. That's the only reason we invented that. Well, not the only reason, but one of the major reasons was to give us some point of reference to go back to and say, yep, God's in control. This world's a crazy world. It's the devil's world, and we don't understand it, but you know what? God's in control. And it's like, well, yeah, certainly it appears to me that somebody's not in control, because when I see all the bad stuff that goes on, all the bad things that happen, and then they try to explain it away with saying, oh, it's the devil. It's Satan's fault that the world's the way it is. He has dominion over this world. And I'm just like, that's just your way of explaining why bad stuff happens and how to get God off the hook so he's not culpable or liable, because if he's in control, that means he's in control of all the good and all the bad, right? So it's just amazing. So anyways, this isn't my Danny's God hating rant. It's not the point. It was just a highlight in my mind. I'm thinking, wow, how these animals can just do things instinctively and don't require any kind of divine intervention, don't require any kind of governance over their lives. They just instinctively know how to live. And I think that we should be able to live the same way. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you found it to be interesting. See you next time.